Okay, let's see if we have this now. Yes, we do. Okay. Uh bear with me just one moment. I apologize. Sound difficulties. Okay. Now that you can hear me, I'm going to start over. Welcome to Weekly Travel Updates. I um, have the pleasure of bringing you up to date news and the updates in travel and anything travel related each week. This week, I have the burden of sharing that the death toll has exceeded 100 in Texas this afternoon. You just can't imagine what these families are going through seeing all that's going on. Just like we felt in the North Carolina mountains, the flooding has pushed things to the banks of the river, and the recovery, the search and recovery that's ongoing now is really challenging. They have dogs, helicopters, boats, you name it out there. I listened to an update by Senator Ted Cruz this afternoon, and it was heart moving. He said he dropped off his girls at camp the week before, and that some of the girls that are missing or recovered and not living have gone to school with his two girls, and how moving and personal it's become. With the morning recovery today, there was an additional 48 adults and 27 children recovered. Even the mayor is asking for prayers and said that of the 31 million people living in Texas, that he expects prayers from all of them. And certainly, I imagine that to be true. Churches are coming forward just like they did in North Carolina with food, clothing, and to show the grieving God's grace. But I think after listening to all these news reports, what I found concerning was that the first warning went out at 8:59. And if you're a camper at camp, by 9 p.m., you're in your cabins preparing to go to bed. And so who knows why they didn't hear it or didn't see it, or maybe they at the time didn't feel it was that concerning. But another broadcast went out at 1 a.m. and another at 4 a.m. And it was just not a time that I guess people were listening or seemed that concerned. Anyway, we will pray for them fervently. Our weather scare here in central North Carolina yesterday was kind of scary. We had 3 tornado warnings. Not confirmed, but it looks like one has touched down in Mebane, which is just 15 minutes away. And I-40/85, now 4 lanes on each side, was brought to a complete stop because in Haw River, the water crested and filled the interstate. And so it was slow moving even midday today because the water is still ponding and has not receded. Our own our own Saxpahal area, the river that runs through Saxpahal, it crested the bridge, filled the bridge with debris, and it crested at 16.4 feet. That's a whole lot of water. So besides shutting down the interstate, it also has really cut traffic back. We were hearing reports yesterday afternoon of just stay home. So many roads in Alamance County where we live were considered non-passable because of the amount of rain that we got. And we got about 10 inches by my meter. It said 9 or 10 inches on the news. But man, our areas just not used to getting that much rain at one time. And so when I went to the pool this morning to swim, it was completely full. I mean, it liked that much from just being over the top of the pool. Well, Durham area, Chapel Hill, Pinehurst, even Raleigh was hit hard. And if you have seen any news reports today, you can see the flooding, see the people who had to be boatless from their home, just as close as Durham, which is 40 minutes away. So I'm thankful for my friends who reached out and wanted to make sure that we were okay. I'm thankful. I was really worried about my in-laws who were down at the beach. Trey and Maya came home on Saturday, and I'll show you a picture in a minute. And we got to take them out to dinner. But here was Beth, and she was by herself at the house last night because her other daughter came back to go to camp. And so, pray for these people. It's scary. I can imagine it being scary. All over the east, from where we are east towards the coast, there have been flooding issues. Pinehurst had several water rescues, and it's about 40 minutes south towards the coast from us. So, oops, sorry. So, it has really just been a couple of days that were kind of scary. In advance of tomorrow, East Coast thunderstorms are already in place. So the airlines, United specifically, sent me an update just an hour ago, and it said the waivers for voluntary changes for today and tomorrow are in place for Baltimore, Boston, Hartford, all 3 New York airports, both Philadelphia airports, and both DC airports. And they will allow for voluntary changes or a refund of your purchase. In other news that's catastrophic, and again, it seems catastrophic because like China's had huge floods, very devastating, tons of losses of life. And then just this week, Naples, Italy had the strongest earthquake in their history. Now, Mount Vesuvius is really close to Naples, and so that's a big fear. And Mount Vesuvius, I shared just a few weeks ago, was erupting, and now the largest earthquake in southern Italy in history. So be aware. Make sure you take travel insurance. New things that have gone on this week. Mexico enforces a $5 per person fee if you're traveling into Mexico. And that fee was supposed to be $42 per person, and it was supposed to start July 1st. So they're going to moderately increase it each year. This year it's going to be $5 per person. Next year it's going to be 10. In 27 it's going to be 15. In 28 it's going to be 21. And in 2030 it is going to be $25. It's just something to be aware of. So far, the cruise lines are just going to add it to your expenses on board for you to pay once you're on the ship. In other news this week, I shared last week that one of my cruise bloggers had an issue getting into the port of Roatan in in Honduras, but the embassy updated their verbiage this weekend, and if you are cruising, you will not need a vaccination notice for measles. And what they said last week was that certainly you would. So that's been cleared away. If you are on Royal Caribbean and you're going to Roatan, no worries. You do not need a measles vaccination card. And then later this month in Greece, they are going to start charging cruisers from $5 to $20 per person, with Mykonos and Santorini being the highest. The specific amounts have not been announced yet, but it said the most popular ports will be the most expensive. They say that with this money, they expect to gain $50 million to improve the ports and the infrastructure. Then Search Cruise were searching for a cruise passenger that got off of a ship in Juneau on the NCL Bliss. In Juneau, she took the cable car up Mount Roberts. And if you go to Juneau, it's one of the things that you should do. It's very inexpensive, and don't do it as a excursion because they charge too much money for that. You can do it on your own. Just walk 500 yards from the ship, and that's where you can see the cables coming right down to the ticket booth, and that's what I would do. I've been up several times, and it's phenomenal. But there was a 62-year-old lady on the NCL Bliss, and she let her family know that she was going up to hike. And that afternoon came, and she didn't come back. They reported it to local authorities. A search started, and it took a couple of days, but they found her, and she was deceased. They're going to perform an autopsy because they couldn't tell the reason for her death. It wasn't like she got mauled by a bear or anything, but she was hiking, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But that was very sad that a 62-year-old lady didn't come back from her hike for the day. And then this weekend in Nice, the Voyager of the Seas attempted to port into Nice. And here comes the mayor of Nice. He got on a police boat with his camera crew. Mind you, that's very important. He got on the boat with his camera crew and rushed out to the ship, pounded on the door, said, "Let me on board. I need to give this to your captain." They would not let him on board. And he said, "You need to leave right now." They didn't leave right now. The ruling took place July 1st. And the ruling said that one cruise ship per day can come into Nice with no more than 2,500 passengers. Now that's up from 1,000 that I told you last week. They amended it in final hours so at least some regular cruise ships could come. Okay. Anyway, he went out with his entourage of the film crew and was pretty much told no, they wouldn't leave. But if you saw the media on it, it is so blatantly overdone. Like, he really did it up to be able to go out to this cruise ship and tell them to leave. But it didn't happen. They stayed their full 13 hours in port, and all the cruise passengers got to do their excursions and other plans for the day. In other cruise news, the NCL Prima, as well as the NCL Breakaway. If you have a cruise booked for either of these ships for 2026 in the fall, we got the notification, and within days, passengers will get it, but they are canceling bukus of these two cruise ships. They are going to make an itinerary change, and so those two new ships are, all that you have paid is going to be refunded, and you get a 10% cruise credit towards a future cruise if you were booked on the NCL Prima or the Breakaway. And since they're new ships, people could. I'm booking trips for next year for my customers. So now is a great time. Anyway, if you're booked on one of those, look for a full refund. It's going to come back to your original form of payment. Speaking of which, when you pay for a cruise deposit, anytime there's an adjustment, it's going to go back to the original form of payment. So be careful that your card's not going to expire like 3 months after you make your cruise payment, because it is a big challenge to go back and find those cruise funds. I've had to do it myself. Did you know, and I learned this after watching the news dialogue about the lady in Alaska, but did you know that your phone has an SOS button on it? iPhones for sure, and Androids do as well. Look for it, because maybe if she'd have been found in the first 24 hours, she may have lived. I don't know. They're going to do an autopsy, but it's just a good thing to know, because that would have beamed them right to where she was. I didn't know that. Did you know that? Tell me in the remarks, did you know that your phone had an SOS button on it? Now we do. Well, cruise stocks took a jump this past week. Carnival was up 6%. Remember our $15.50 per share? Carnival's now up to $29.65 per share. And Royal Caribbean, they also took the same 6% increase. And their new rate is $326.10 per share. Can you remember when it was under 200? It's just been a few months ago. Norwegian was up 3%. They're up to $21.37. And Viking Cruise Line was flat. They're still at 54.56. Well, if you have a cruise story or a travel story, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. Last week, I apologize. My sound was not working, just like the beginning of this show. I apologize. Anyway, Sharon Hungerford is in Israel, and I corresponded with her today by text. She said that the Palestinians were still sending bombs. From the Gaza, they're still seeing rockets. I wanted to tell you exactly what else she said. Um, um, with Iran directly, yes, tensions are down, but with the Houthis have sent several ballistic missiles, and that Gaza's still sending quite a lot of rockets. They started again as soon as things stopped with Iran, and Israel's been able to take them all out. God is defending Israel. There are so many miracles. I promise to be on your show once I return to the States. She's a friend, a longtime customer, and she goes to Israel a couple times a year, and she was stranded. And when she asked me the last week of June when she could come home, the first date was not until the 11th of July. So think about her. I put her information on here last week. And just before I go, I will show you the most adorable pictures. My grandson has two teeth, two little teeth. This is his Uncle Jack. Oh, you can't see. Why is that not good? There you go. That's his Uncle Jack. That's his. Are you guys really taking more pictures? Photo? This we got to go out with the kids Saturday night, and Mom's holding Grayson. Of course, he's 23 pounds now, so notice that Trey's hand is supporting Mom as she was trying to hold him. But we got to take them out to eat, and that was a blast on their way home from the beach before they got back up to the mountains. And I'm going to show you one more cute one. Look at this. Is that this not stinking cute? Right. I'm biased, but it is. He's just so precious. He has two little teeth. Okay, guys. Thank you for hanging out tonight. I apologize I went a little bit long. I apologize that the sound wasn't good to begin with, but live and learn. Thank you, and remember to reach out to me by my email, which is right at the bottom, or the phone number. Make sure that you choose Melinda when you call 222-TRIP. It will say, would you like to speak to Melinda? Because if you don't speak to Melinda, I may be days before I get that message. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you next week, and stay blessed. Pray for Texas. Pray for the people who are still without power and or stranded here in North Carolina as well. Have a great week. Remember, without a travel agent, you're on your own. Ciao.